Welcome to the review show. It's amazing, as reported by todaynewspost.com here on Today News Post Teams today on March 1st, 2021, that a multi-billion dollar company is selling lab-grown chicken in a world first. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty good. You know a chicken nugget if you saw one, right? How about one grown from a single cell with no animals harmed in the process? Good question. Josh Tetrick is betting not. He's trying to win over consumers with a lab-grown chicken bite, following the world's first approval of his company's cultured chicken in Singapore at the end of 2020. We have the freedom to sell across Singapore, whether retail, food service, hawkers, you name it, quote unquote. Tetrick told CNBC, make it. Starting with an egg, Tetrick is the founder and CEO of Eat Just, the Californian food startup responsible for bringing the world's first lab-grown chicken to tables. Its landmark approval for human consumption may potentially disrupt industrial livestock farms. When Tetrick started out in 2011, that notion was a pipe dream. The idea was to start a food company that takes the live animal, out of the equation of the food system. Josh Tetrick, founder and CEO of Eat Just. I agree with that 100%. We've got to make the planet a more eco-friendly environment. You know, protect the animals and eat healthier and not eat the animals when we don't need to. I had less than $3,000 in my bank account, and the idea was we're going to start a company that takes the live animal, out of the equation of the food system, quote unquote, he said. Tetrick, who started his career working for nonprofit organizations in sub-Saharan Africa, wanted to fix what he saw as one of the world's biggest problems, food sustainability. For him, the egg came first. We decided the place that we're going to start is figuring out a way to make an egg, a chicken egg, from a plant. He said, all I knew at the time is there were 375,000 species of plants all over the world, and I bet that one of them could scramble like an egg, quote unquote. Winning investor support. Investors liked his vision. Shortly after he founded the company, billionaire tech investor Vinod Khosla and his business partner Samir Kaul were on board and invested $500,000 in the idea. That was enough to get me off the couch, quote unquote, said Tetrick. I started hiring food scientists and biochemists and molecular biologists, analytical chemists, chefs, quote unquote. Just Egg is a plant-based egg substitute created by a Californian food company, Eat Just. And with Eat Just, years of experimentation later, the team struck on the mung bean, protein-rich legume, commonly used in cuisines across Asia. This protein-rich legume, commonly used in cuisines across Asia. And in 2018, Eat Just's first product, Just Egg, was born. So to date, the company has sold the equivalent of 100 million eggs made from plant at major retailers such as Walmart, Whole Foods Markets, and Alibaba. But the egg was just the beginning. What we wanted to do next was real chicken and beef, but not from plants, Josh Tetrick, founder and CEO of Eat Just, said. What we wanted to do next was real chicken and beef, but not from plants, quote unquote, said Tetrick. So now real chicken and real beef that didn't require killing an animal, that didn't require using a single drop of antibiotics. That's broadly a process called cellular agriculture, quote unquote. So how to create cultured meat. Process of creating cultured meat starts with a cell, in this case from a chicken. It can be taken either from a live bird through a biopsy, a fresh piece of meat, a cell bank, or the root of a feather. That cell is then fed nutrients like those found in soy and corn before being left to mature in a large-scale still vessel. Cultured meat is created by extracting a single cell from an animal, either through a biopsy, a cell bank, a piece of meat, or a feather. So CNBC said the process takes around 14 days from start to finish. And the end product is raw, minced meat, creating the cell cultured meat product, and what was the easy part. The harder part was obtaining regulatory approvals, which took 2 years. Toward the end of 2020, Singapore became the first country to approve Eat Just flagship cultured chicken nuggets, for sale nationwide under the Good Meat brand. So he's been on CNBC, obviously, and when he talked about this, and the chicken nugget is now available at Singapore restaurant 1880, retailing at around $17 for a set meal. More restaurants in the city-state are expected to come on board in the coming months. So now Singapore is taking the world's first bite, and Singapore is home to Eat Just Asia Pacific HQ and its first factory in Asia. The company is also considering making Singapore its global manufacturing HQ for Good Meat. While the island nation, which is slightly smaller than New York City, may seem an unlikely location for a global meat production facility, Eileen Suprayati, senior research analyst at Euromonitor International, says several factors are at play. Singapore being the hub in Asia actually helps those companies be able to export to other countries. Eileen Suprayati, a senior research analyst, Euromonitor International. Singapore has the 30 by 30 initiative. So the country wants to have 30% of the food to be produced locally by 2030, quote unquote, she's told CNBC Make It. Singapore can also utilize the scientific knowledge, especially the stem cell research. And Singapore being the hub in Asia actually helps those companies be able to export and sell their products to other countries as well, quote unquote. Now, revolutionizing animal agriculture. Chickens are stored indoors in a meat production facility. Meantime, every year, an estimated 50 billion chickens are slaughtered for food. The wider agriculture industry is responsible for 10 to 12% of greenhouse gas emissions, major contributor to climate change. Not everyone is behind the cultured meat craze, though. Some are still skeptical of its nutritional value and suitability for human consumption, while its environmental and social impact remains to be seen. However, Tetra claims the process is cleaner and more ethical than traditional agriculture, as reported by Wojtek Radwanski of AFP Getty Images, revolutionizing animal culture. So now, because there are those who just find the concept odd, industrialized animal production is probably the strangest, most bizarre thing happening. You're just not aware, Josh Tetrick, founder and CEO of Eat Just, said. But I say to them that industrialized animal production is probably the strangest and most bizarre thing happening. You're just not aware of it. If there's a way that we can do it better, let's get after it, quote unquote, said Tetrick. Now you've got a growing appetite for alternatives. In fact, the demand for alternative meat products, such as cultured or plant-based meat, appears to be growing. The report estimated that the alternative meat market could be worth 140 billion, or 10% of the global meat industry within a decade. The alternative meat industry is forecast to be worth 140 billion by 2029. So when they were speaking to CNBC, in Asia Pacific, it's actually quite big, quote unquote, Suprayati said of alternative meat. In 2020 itself, the market size has reached about 800 million. So potentially with lower price, with greater knowledge, consumers will be more interested to purchase meat alternative products, quote unquote. Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods are among the names making waves in the plant-based meat space, while brands like Memphis Meats are tapping cultured products. Tetrick said he welcomes the competition. I want companies to come in and be a part of solving the problem, quote unquote, he said. Hope someone decides I think I can do it better than this dude. Didn't have any experience of food technology before he started this, quote unquote. So now preparing to go global. However, disrupting the dominance of the established animal agriculture industry will not happen overnight. The limiting steps to ultimately making this ubiquitous are regulatory approvals, scale, and consumer education, quote unquote, noted Tetrick. We can't just focus on one. We've got to focus on all three, quote unquote. At some point, we'll decide to go public. This won't happen without a lot of the capital. There's no getting around it. Josh Tetrick, founder and CEO of Eat Just. According to Tetrick, Eat Just has raised over $400 million from investors, including Khosla Ventures, Founders Fund, Bill Gates Gate Ventures, and Singapore's Temasek is now seeking funding at a valuation of $2 billion. We'll continue to raise more capital, quote unquote, he said. At some point, we'll decide to go public. We want to hit operating profitability first. This won't happen without a lot of capital. There's no getting around it, quote unquote. But as Eat Just sets its sights on getting regulatory approval in more countries, Tetrick is certain the bet will pay off. You have to take leaps of faith every day, right? He said. We're acting as if the U.S. will eventually approve it. We're acting as if Europe will eventually approve it, quote unquote. As people like AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, were talking about the need, the necessity for the Green New Deal. I mean, this is a step in the right direction. So this is a very good thing, supported by todaynewspost.com and Today News Post team on March 1st, 2021. Signing off.